Underrated producers of all time, Part 3, Bangladesh. Usually when the name Bangladesh comes up in music conversations, most people immediately think of him as the guy who made a milli for Lil Wayne, and for good reason. What they may or may not be aware of is not only his many contributions before and after a milli, but also his impact on the game before actually being known as Bangladesh. It's actually the first beats he made under his government name, Sean Dre, that would set the stage for a legendary career that was just getting started.
Not to talk shit, but I think I'm the freshest nigga. I think my sound is the dopest shit.
Yeah.
You know, I think highly of myself.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I really walk it. I really like, it's a lifestyle for me. Like, this is not really, I'm not a nigga that got a hit record, lucked up and got a hit record and became this new dude.
Nah, you
like
same
I've
dude.
been, like if you do the history, you can go back to my elementary school, you can go back to like anybody I grew up with, I'm the same nigga. You know what I'm saying? I always been the nigga. I always been a leader. I always been a trendsetter. I never been peer pressured into doing nothing I don't want to do.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? It's really got me to this point today. You know what I'm saying?
Born and raised in Des Moines, Iowa, Sean Dre would be influenced by hip-hop music at a young age. Coming from a musical family, Sean Dre has actually stated that he is the least talented amongst them, which sounds insane now considering he's probably the most successful.
I would always have this like idea of producing since I was in elementary. You know what I'm saying? I don't know where it came from. It would just be an idea. I didn't really know what a producer was, for real. You know what I'm saying? My older cousin was into music. He used to buy records and stuff like that. And so I would always like beat on the cafeteria table, like make beats and shit like that. But I grew up in the church. You know, my whole family is musicians or singers or something. I was probably like the least talented. You know what I'm saying? All them, they play instruments, they sing, they do something, you know what I'm saying?
That's crazy to say that you probably the least talented, but.
Yeah, technically, because,
Gotcha.
Technically I was probably the least talented as far as like the technical part of it. I was always like blessed with like the spirit, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like spirit always spoke to me, you know what I'm saying?
Although Sean Dre wasn't known to be a musician as far as playing instruments, he's always had an ear for good music. He always knew he would be a producer, in full confidence, believing that his time would come. Sean Dre was heavily influenced by organized noise, being a huge fan of the Dungeon Family and the Atlanta hip-hop scene. He also credits Timbaland as one of his major influences.
When I was a sophomore, Outkast came out. Man, I just fell in love with the production of it. Southern Player Cadillac Music, that first single. You know, I'm from Des Moines, Iowa, so this is like a totally different wave sound, you know what I'm saying? It had live bass lines, and I just related to it so much. Some told me to move to Atlanta, you know what I'm saying? I wanted to move to Atlanta. My auntie and cousins they had already moved to Atlanta like years prior to By the time I moved to Atlanta, I kind of stopped. I kind of like put the love of sports to the back, you know what I'm saying? And I just started focusing on producing. Aaliyah came out that year.
Okay.
When I was a junior.
Yeah.
I moved to Atlanta by this time. Fell in love with the production, Timbaland. So I had Organized and Timbaland, like they was like doing something to me, you know what I'm saying?
Sean Dre's love for Atlanta, combined with his passion to become a successful music producer, would lead to him moving to Atlanta in the mid-90s. It was here he would meet one of his best friends, who just so happened to be the cousin of Fate Wilson, or Lil Fate, from Disturbing the Peace. It was through this connection that Sean Dre would meet Ludacris, who was Lil Fate's friend from school.
Lil Fate was the mutual link to me and Ludacris. This is before he was Ludacris, though. I gave him his first hit record. You know what I'm saying? So we both came in the game together, in a sense. Lil Fate just conversating and talking. I'm observing that he's like outside, you know, he's rapping, you know, he's in the mix, you know everybody, you know. Him and Chris went to school together.
Yeah.
And we would link up on the weekends, like we'd get hotel rooms and just smoke and rap, and I'll just beat on the table, beatbox and shit like that.
Yeah.
And Chris came through one day. That's when we first met.
Initially, Sean Dre wasn't known as a producer, but as the barber who would cut everyone's hair. Eventually, he would save enough money from the barbershop to buy his own MPC. During this time, through mutual friendships and casual encounters, Sean Dre would play some of his beats for Luda, and the rest is history.
Also, I cut hair, so Chris would come through the barbershop. They went to Banneker. I cut hair near Banneker and Shannon Mall. So he would come through there and get his hair cut by somebody else, though. I wasn't, like, we weren't really locked in like that. We just like, we just know each other type shit. I wasn't making beats at that time. Like, I wasn't physically making beats. So he didn't know who I was or what I did or my desires.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It didn't come till later on. When I finally bought my MP, man, I made like some of his Incognito album. That was like some of my first beats, bro. Use a Hoe, like one of my first beats, bro. Luda our styles complemented each other.
He would go on to produce about 5 records on Luda's classic album, Back for the First Time. Needless to say, those songs, including What's Your Fantasy and Ho, will go on to be massive, putting both Sean Dre and Luda on the map. Sean Dre would end up doing more work for Luda and Disturbing the Peace, being credited on Word of Mouth and Golden Grain, before making the decision to start doing his own thing. He initially used the name Bangladesh as the name of the company and began to tag his beats with it. Sean Dre would go on to say that he is one of, if not the first producer to ever tag a beat.
I said this before, like I was the first to tag, but I think Rodney Jerkins used to tag his beats, you know what I'm saying? But he was like an R&B nigga.
Oh, yeah, Dark Child. Yeah.
Dark Child.
Yeah.
I never heard too many like hip hop producers tagging, unless you was like a DJ producer.
Right.
Like Just Blaze, I heard his name.
Right.
But he'll say it. It wasn't like a tag. He ain't use it all the time.
Yeah.
But when I started doing that, it was like unconscious. I didn't really know what it was doing. I didn't set out. It didn't set out to be that what it became. You know what I'm saying? I was just doing some shit.
A lot of fans, upon hearing these songs, assumed it was a new producer named Bangladesh, when in fact, it was Sean Dre. This explains in part how he got his name.
Because Bangladesh was my company. Like I had, the record company was that.
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
Because you was going under Sean Dre.
Yeah, my government.
Yeah.
But see, I was only going under my government because everything took off so quick. I wasn't prepared for it. I didn't have a stage name. I didn't have a producer name. Bangladesh came from just a word we used to say. We used to use that word to describe cool shit. Man, that shit Bangladesh. Man, we gonna take them to room Bangladesh. Man, that shit I don't know where that shit just is what we used. I was doing ad-lib. I was doing some ad-libs on this track and shit, and I kept saying Bangladesh, Bangladesh, Bangladesh. And then I started, and I sampled it. Like I took it, put this little filter thing on it, then I just started putting it in front of beats. Then people just started calling me Bangladesh. They didn't know Chandre was Bangladesh. They thought Bangladesh was a whole nother nigga. You know what I'm saying? So it kind of like formed on its own. I never officially like, yo, my name is gonna be Bangladesh. Like niggas just start calling me that.
Bangladesh would go on to produce for some of the biggest names in the game, such as 8 Ball and MJG, Sierra, Nicki Minaj, Usher, 2 Chainz, Nelly, and many more. But arguably his biggest record to a lot of fans is Lil Wayne's A Milli. What was initially a skit for the Carter 3 album ended up being a viral moment at a time where going viral was still a new concept.
To be honest, I didn't really like A Milli when I first heard it. You know, cause my expectations was different.
Okay.
Like what I thought it should have been. 2 Chainz, my boy, so 2 Chainz and Wayne tight. 2 Chainz came to my studio, he was like, yeah, I heard that beat you gave Wayne. He was like, yeah, it's an interlude on this album. I said, an interlude? I said, hell no, like my whole heart dropped to my, like it just, man, he just killed me right there. But somewhere along the way, he figured it out and he made it what it needed to be. I don't think they know what it was. Even if you see the video, how they shot the video, in between videos, he's like, man, because it was going viral, so he's like, man, we gotta shoot a video to this. So that's why you see it like the way it's done. It wasn't really no budget put in it. It was like, just let's catch up to what it's doing. So, you know, nobody really knew.
A Milli, as well as 6'7", are considered to be 2 of the most successful songs in Lil Wayne and Bangladesh's career. He also did one of Gucci Mane's biggest hits, Lemonade, as well as Bossy for Khalees, Diva for Beyonce, and Cockiness by Rihanna, Missy Elliott, Mario, Brandy, Alicia Keys, Snoop Dogg, The Game, Jadakiss, and the list goes on. Although Bangladesh's name rings bells in the industry amongst his peers and the fans that are familiar with his resume, he seems to be relatively unknown to casual fans, keeping a quiet, humble aura, yet still confident and assertive about who he is and what he's accomplished. I think it's safe to say it probably doesn't bother him one bit.
I sat down with Puff. Puff tried to sign me. I took my attorney, a female attorney, with me. We sitting in a room full of like 17 people, and he's like telling me, you know, what he's trying to do. You know, Atlanta's my second home, and I want you to be the first producer of Bad Boy South. And I don't talk. Like, he asks a question, she answers. And it's like 3 questions that she answers. He's like, he can answer his own questions. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know that nigga ain't going for that shit. And the first thing I said, like, I already knew that this not what I wanted to do. You know what I'm saying? So like, man, you know, really ain't trying to sign with you. Wow. It's like the first word.
That's the
like,
first thing you said to him.
First word.
What was his reaction?
I don't even want to answer.
Oh.
I don't even want to answer.
What you mean you don't want to answer? You just gave him an answer.
I want you to think about it.
Oh, don't answer me right now.
The nigga said, matter of fact, I'm going to give you 6 months of work. No paperwork. I was like, no, I'd rather have paperwork than no paperwork. Nigga. Like, it's crazy.
It's different.
No
You
paperwork.
different, bro.
Whether or not people know his name or his face, there's a good chance they've heard of his music, knowingly or unknowingly. This is why I consider Chandre, better known as Bangladesh, one of the most underrated producers of all time. Stay solid.